The Daily Jaws 50th Anniversary Interview Series is a collection of amazing conversations exploring the legacy of Steven Spielberg's screen adaptation of Jaws through the eyes of the fans. We'll be talking to famous fans, shark experts, people whose lives have been changed by the movie, and those that were there that helped to make the film. We'll also be telling you about two amazing organisations that are very close to our hearts. Anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Whatever energy they had in the real world that they brought to set and then imbued into those characters, again, elevated that film so much higher than it ever would have been with any other cast, in my opinion. The editing is just sensational and, by most accounts, effectively saved that movie. When you look at the totality of Jaws, it is just overwhelming how much of it is absolute perfection, even though it's a very imperfect film. Yes, there's definitely a Jaws director's cut, and it came out June 20th, 1975. that is the director's cut of Jaws.
Hey guys, it's Ross over at the Daily Jaws with another exclusive 50th anniversary interview. Today's guest is a special one, and he is responsible for some of the best DVD and Blu-ray box sets of all time. He was also in charge of the restoration for Alien 3 and worked as a producer directly with Ridley Scott on Blade Runner: The Final Cut. But today, he's here to talk about one of his favourite movies, Jaws. Guys, please welcome Charles de Lauzirika to the Daily Jaws. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm doing great, and I feel really especially great because you pronounced my name almost correctly, so thank you for that.
How is it actually pronounced?
No, you did great. 99%. It was good.
Oh,
really good.
99%.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Charlie, as we know, you are basically responsible for some of the greatest box sets and things like that of all time, and some amazing producer credits. I mean, I could do 3 hours of an intro on you, let alone an hour of interview. But obviously we're here to talk about Jaws. And from the looks of things, in terms of your background, you're a bit of a fan by the looks of things. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I'm a massive Jaws fan, and just this little background is not my normal setup in my office. I did this for you, but these items do come from my private home theater, which is just to the left of my desk here. I have a little Jaws corner, which maybe I'll send you a picture of later, but it's basically relics, like mostly all vintage, because I saw Jaws, just to go into the weeds right off the bat, I saw Jaws Saturday, June 21st, 1975 at, I believe it was the Hastings Triplex in Pasadena, California. My mom took me to the second show. It's like I've gone back and I've rethought about this moment so many times. And since then, I've been so madly in love with this film. And yeah, I've collected a lot of stuff, as a lot of fans do. But to me, it's become, it's almost like it's more than a movie. It's like an old friend at this point, And I just love revisiting. I love going back to it. Like when you see an old friend, it's like you feel good. You feel like all is right in the world. And so, especially lately, Jaws has been just my go-to movie to just not just remember childhood or have a feeling of nostalgia, but just to enjoy such a well-crafted film that is just endlessly entertaining. But also, I always spot something new every time I see it. I always learn something new in terms of the filmmaking of it. And yeah, it's like it's such a good old friend of a movie.
That's something that's been echoed with some of the other guests I've been speaking to. Some people sort of refer to Jaws as sort of comfort food, or a great familiar place to go back to, or like you say, an old friend. And I think, on this journey of conversations I'm having with people, I think Jaws and what makes Jaws a classic, like all the great classics, is it's a movie that grows with you. Like you said, it's something that you can watch again and again and again, spot something new, or watch it in a different way, and it just has infinite offerings in terms of a movie. It's definitely not about a fish. What was your sort of first experience of watching Jaws? Obviously, you talked a little bit about when and where you saw it, but do you remember coming out of the theater or watching it, what it was like?
I remember one very vivid thing about that first screening, because I was 7 years old. So, a lot of details fade, but this one still does not fade. So my mom took me, and it was a Saturday, and it was the first time I remember ever having to wait in line for a movie. Like it was that already popular, like straight out of the gate. And so we're waiting in line, and I'm 7, and I'm getting bored waiting in line, and I just had to sneak a peek. So I went into the lobby, and I opened the auditorium door, and I swear I hadn't seen the trailer. I saw the posters, and I see that, but the very first image I saw as I opened the door and I looked in the theater was Ted Grossman's estuary victim leg
Oh,
floating to the bottom of the
yes. Wow.
of the estuary. That was the very first thing I ever saw, like visually or like filmically, of Jaws.
Mm.
And I ran out of the theater with this combination of fright but excitement. You know, I was terrified, I was thrilled. It was just like this weird thing that I wasn't supposed to see. And I was about to see it. I was going to see it like, an hour later or so, whenever the next showing was. And and that just like zapped my brain,
Mm.
that initial exposure to Jaws, because of the power of it. The overwhelming power of that one shot. And I didn't
Mm.
even see the previous shot where you see the shark, creeping up on the estuary victim,
Yeah.
which is even kind of in many ways even more terrifying. Um, but that really introduced me to that movies were more than just a thing you go see on either TV or in this big theater in the dark or whatever as a kid. And I saw mostly Disney movies and cartoons, and I
Mm.
didn't see anything like Jaws before Jaws. So it's kind of like it really radically rewrote my brain in so many ways. Um, so yeah, I remember that very, very well. And then I also saw it again with my dad a couple weeks later, and that's also the first time I saw a movie in a theater more than once, because
Mm.
usually it was a one and done type of situation. So
Mm.
that's when I kind of really got to study the film more. And again, a 7-year-old, I'm just like, I'm just like in awe of the film. I believe the shark is real. I think Bruce is not a mechanical shark, and
Yeah.
I'm so enthralled that and actually I have it right here. This is from 1975. This is my original Jaws log, and you can see how beat up it is. But
Yeah.
this is what I had as a kid,
Wow.
and I poured through this, and of
Yeah.
course this as well,
Yeah.
Edith Blake's book. But like,
Uh-huh.
but I mean, when those came out, and I'm a little kid, I am pouring through these books like crazy just to
Yeah.
learn everything I could about Jaws. So
Mm.
yeah, it was a really beautiful beginning to my love affair with movies for sure.
Yeah. I think you and I and many other people have had a very, very similar experience when it comes to Jaws. It seems to be that movie for so many people that it wasn't just a great movie, it was their favorite movie from the moment they saw it, and it's never changed. It's because I think you and I saw it probably around a similar age. I think I'm a little bit younger than you, but I saw it around 5, 6 years old, maybe. And like you, I'd never seen anything quite like it before because I'd been watching things like Superman and The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars: A New Hope, these brilliantly, fantastical, wonderfully crafted movies. But then you watch Jaws, and in terms of just tone, completely different, but just as engaging, just as exciting. And then, like you, I had the post Jaws experience of reading the Jaws logs. Literally, mine was beaten to pieces, and then reading Edith Blake's book, and then all of these wonderful pieces of literature that keep coming up, and through the Daily Jaws, finding out these discoveries from the filmmakers and going, "Hey, by the way, this happened," or "Oh, this found this, and we've explained that," and this lore and mythology of Jaws. Forget the movie, just the making. It was just incredible. Um, and I think one of the things that I was really interested in asking you about, and you've already kind of preempted it as well with the Jaws log, it was probably the first movie that I started to actually learn how movies were made and the challenges they had and the difficulty they had. Obviously, the Jaws story, if anyone hasn't read the Jaws log, and obviously the literature that's come out since, the making of Jaws was so tough. I mean, it's a miracle that this film was made, but I kind of refer it to the right things going wrong, because even though the shark didn't work, it allowed people to workshop the script and their characters, and that's for me is probably the secret to the movie in terms of the actors and the characters. But why is it important that we continue to document the making of movies, even today, when people seem to think it's just CGI and you push a button, when we all kind of know it's not? But that seemed to start with Jaws, and it's carried on. I mean, but why are we still fascinated by the making of movies, and why is it important that we keep documenting those stories?
Well, there are a lot of films, especially ones like Jaws or Star Wars, that are more kind of like escapist entertainment, or they're world building entertainment, or they're fantastical in some way that it's creating magic. It
Mm.
really is creating magic. And the fact that the shark was not working particularly well, it created this whole much better way of telling the story of the shark, which is that, right? That barrel
Yeah.
is a beautiful, that's why, by the way, why I obtained this barrel was because to me it sums up the brilliance of Steven Spielberg and the crew to deal with the problem
Mm.
and end up with a much better solution than seeing a fake shark do everything they probably originally wanted it to do.
Yeah.
Or today, if you're going to revisit it and CG the shark, which would be a massive mistake in my opinion, it would also feel like synthetic and not real. But the fact that the barrel we know is real, You know, you can
Mm,
knock on it. It's a real thing. And it's a marker for where the shark could be, you know, at any point in time with
mm,
one, two, three barrels. Not only does it tell you where the shark is, it tells you how powerful the shark is because it's
yeah.
taking down three barrels, right? So it's a
Hmm.
powerful shark. It's kind of cunning. It has a strategy in terms of attacking the orca.
Hmm.
You don't have to be convinced of a shark at all. You just know it's there because enough of it has been established that the barrels do all the heavy lifting for, you know, probably 30% of the movie or whatever that, you know, that last kind of hunt chunk
Mm,
is. And I think that is very ingenious filmmaking and it's inspiration
mm.
that, you know, more is not always more. You know, it's like sometimes you just need a little bit.
It's such a good point, and when I've talked about Jaws on podcasts and stuff, I kind of talk about it as being one of the most deceptively marketed movies ever. Because when you go back to the TV spots and the poster, you know, for example, it's all about the shark and the music and the barrels and everything else. But when you actually watch the movie, the shark is on screen for about 4.5 minutes in terms of Bruce itself, and everything else is the music or it's the jetty. Because when you see the jetty get pulled off by the shark when it's going for the holiday roast and then just slowly turn around, you don't just think, well, this shark's just turned around and it's coming back for Charlie. This is a big, powerful shark. And then obviously, as you say, the barrels do a lot of the heavy lifting. And the first thing we hear in the movie, it's not even the credits or the anything. It's the two notes of the two notes of Jaws in darkness. It's putting the shark in your mind so early on, and it's playing on the fact that it's probably marketed this to you for months and months and months. So you walk straight in and you know that this is going to be a very different type of experience, particularly for a 7-year-old like you and I when we first saw it. It was just incredible, and I think you're right. It's the whole less is more, and I know some people have tried to do it with some success, but other people have gone the other way and they just try to show more of the monster, and it kind of robs, or it kind of shows that they haven't learned the lesson of Jaws, which is characters are the most probably important thing because it's about what happens to them and how they deal with the shark and what it brings out of each character. And you know, that's why you care when spoilers, by the way, guys, the shark dies at the end. But when the shark is coming towards Brody and the boat is sinking and he's inches from the shark, and you think, oh my god, please just hit that tank, please hit that tank. I don't know many people that watch blockbusters today would be cheering for the character to live or not. It's just, I don't know. There seems to be a lack of, not craft necessarily, but there's just something missing from the modern day movie making. And I'm like, just watch Jaws, go back, watch it again. It's there. It shows you how to make a great movie.
Well, Jaws takes its time to earn your love and your concern for the characters. Um, and what's really brilliant about it is that it, no pun intended, it hooks you right off the bat with that opening scene with Chrissy.
Yeah.
And so it's bought itself some time to develop these characters that today I think a lot of people would be bored by. You know,
Mm,
it's they would consider a slow burn, which is nonsense. Is there anything in Jaws a slow burn? It's very methodical. It builds a perfect pace,
mm,
and getting to know these characters, especially Brody, who I think about this a lot because there's certain moments in Brody's life that we see that are so like kind of like pathetic in a way, but like in a way that you care about him. Like you're like everything he does in the beginning seems like he's always has a little bit of a mistake in almost everything he does. Like the phone rings in his kitchen. He goes and he picks up the wrong phone. And then right below the frame line is another phone. Total Spielberg humor, which I love.
hmm.
He goes to the hardware store to get the paint and the brushes for the signs, and he tips over the jar with the paint brushes. He's like, you know,
Yeah.
and like there's a lot of those little like flubs that are not flubs. I mean, it's just character. It's a human being who is kind of like slightly at odds with the situation he's being handed. But I love that Brody is so I don't know, he's just such an underdog, you know, throughout the whole, you know, beginning of the film, so
Yeah.
that when he gradually steps up to the plate and he actually, you know, goes against his fear of water and everything, and he gets on the orca and he goes out to sea, you're really rooting for him because you know
Mm,
that he's kind of vulnerable and he's not a Superman. He's just a blue collar guy. He's just trying to do his job. And he's trying to protect his community, you know.
yeah.
And it's so clean that development of Brody's character, so that when he
Mm,
does get to the point where he's on the mast and he's going to take the shot at the tank, you absolutely are 110% on his side and you're rooting for him to do it. And it's
mm,
time because you know it's like this is the final battle. So, you know, that's another thing I kind of vaguely remember having seen it in the theater that first summer was the audience cheering, which was another thing
yeah.
I don't believe I had ever seen previously in a movie.
Mm,
So, yeah, it's like I think it's such a beautiful build. That script is perfection,
yeah.
in terms of like how it seduces you into the problem and the world that it's taking place in, and the
Mhm.
characters are going to solve the problem without having to rely too much on the shark. It's like the shark is almost like, I mean, it's not irrelevant. Obviously, it's hugely important, but it's just sort of like it's a shadow in the background until, the final act, really. And I
Yeah,
really, really, that's one major thing I love about Jaws, that it takes its time for us to care about the characters
yeah,
and just kind of like see what their life is like before we go out to sea.
yeah. When I talk about Jaws to people, they can't believe that half of it takes place on land. It's like, yeah, the first half of the movie we don't really go out to sea because we're investing in the situation and the characters. And Brody's a really great example because the thing that I love about Brody's arc is that his instincts are right at the beginning. He knows to close the beaches. He knows that this is a problem that might not have been dealt with and that we can't just trust to go away, even though he's now complicit basically in a cover up between the mayor, the medical examiner, and himself. And, ultimately for me, people talk about Jaws or one of the themes of Jaws being about fear, which I think is absolutely fair, but it's also about belief and trust in your gut instincts as well. And knowing that actually you should trust those voices inside your mind, your heart, your gut, wherever they are, because you're probably saying those things for a reason. It's just a matter of, are you brave enough and strong enough to to make the decision when the time comes. And it takes Brody a little while to learn that lesson, particularly when Michael Brody, his son, is has his shark encounter in the estuary. In the estuary, that's kind of where the movie turns, and Brody's like, right, I need to deal with this now because this is affecting me personally, even though that had been foreshadowed with Mrs. Kintner and her confrontation with him on the dock. It's like, how personal does this need to be before you take action? And he's just a character full of regret, basically, until he pulls that trigger because he knows he did the wrong thing, even though he knew he was doing it. So, yeah, to your point, I think it's a fantastic character arc. It's one of the all-time perfect character arcs. And that screenplay by Carl Gottlieb and Peter Benchley is just, oh, again, it's just filmmaking craft 101. Go back, read Jaws screenplay, go back, watch Jaws, whatever it happens to be. If you want to learn how to edit, watch Jaws. If you want to know how to do a score, watch Jaws. There's just so much to learn from it.
It's a master class in filmmaking. It really is. And
Mm,
and like you say, you can go to any kind of department in the filmmaking spectrum and just get
mm,
an A plus example from Jaws out of it in terms of like how to do it, how to
mm,
conceive it, how to execute it, how it's endured over nearly 50 years now. I mean, it's like it's still, for my money, goes toe to toe with pretty much any other similar type of film. I mean, and there aren't many films like Jaws, but in terms of
mm,
like man versus monster type story or survival story or whatever you want to think
mm.
of, um, I mean, it's still such a perfect thrilling machine, to kind of paraphrase Hooper a bit. It's like it's such a great movie in multiple genres too, by the way, because it's not just horror or thriller or survival. It's kind of a road movie.
Mm.
It's got comedy throughout the whole thing.
Very
I
funny.
mean, it's a family drama, local politics. It's just like there's just so many little micro film festivals within Jaws as a mega film festival, and
Yeah.
that's again a reason why I keep going back to it, because it's just there's so many things you can pull out of any component of that film and have a full meal out of it. It's really amazing.
It really is. I mean, and you've hit the nail on the head there. It's not just a cross-genre movie because it's very difficult to categorize where to put Jaws because, as you say, it kind of straddles so many. But like for me, for example, it was my first lesson in politics and authority because I learned from the mayor, Brody, and the medical examiner. You're sitting there as a kid going, but there's a shark out there, so why are you keeping the beaches open? And it's like, oh, because you want to make money for the town. And then, but you're acting in the town's best interests. And then by a miracle, Mayor Vaughan is re-elected in Jaws 2. It's just like, so is this how politics works? Oh, okay, fine. If that's how it works, that's how it works.
And
It's
nothing's
incredible.
changed. Nothing's changed apparently.
No, yeah, yeah. You know what? We're going to move on from that because we could go down that rabbit hole very, very deeply. Bear with me just 1 second, Charlie. There's just something that I need to do. Bear with me just one moment.
Oh my goodness.
This is an arrest from the Amity PD because I can't even turn it on. Oh, hold on.
There you go.
Shit.
Wow.
Hi, Charles. How are
Look at
you?
you. Good. How you doing, Jeffrey?
I'm good. Oh, I'm glad you recognize me.
Oh, you don't understand something, and you will not remember this. You and I met, I think it was in 1987,
No.
at the cast and crew screening of Hero and the Terror.
Oh my God.
And I showed up with a still of you from Jaws hammering the sign into the beach.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's hanging in my home theater, and it
Oh,
says It says, to Charlie, only you could find this picture. Best wishes, Jeffrey Kramer. I've
Oh,
got
how
that up on my
very
wall.
cool. That got me out of acting.
Oh, yeah?
It's a true story. We're doing Hero in the Terror. I had to climb on the roof of the fucking Wiltern Theater. I thought I was going to die. I'm afraid of heights. And then we're in San Pedro, and Chuck Norris says to me, listen, we need you to go in the water here. I said, you don't even have a nurse on the set. He goes, no. They saline out your eyes and ears and nose, and you'll be fine. I said, I don't want to. He says, we'll give you a stunt bump. I said, it's not about money. He goes, there were used prophylactics floating in the water. I thought I would die. And he says, no, we'll give you a big stunt bump. I said, it's not about money. I promise you. He says, get the director over here. The director comes over, a guy named Bill Tannen, and he looks and sees what I see. He says, well, I don't blame him. Jews don't go in water like this. And he's Jewish. And Chuck said, fine, I'll have my son do it. And his son did it. And I then went and I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. This is just too, it's just so, we were having kids. I was selling flowers on the corner at Fairfax and Pico with my hat down so my agent wouldn't know it was me if he drove by. And luckily, I was able to change my life. I mean, in the end, I developed the X-Files, and I was David Kelly's partner. It was much more nourishing for me.
Sure.
I realized we were the last hired and the first fired. But I have great respect for you. You actually write with your wife. That's so cool.
She's super talented. Every chance I get, I try to collaborate with her.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I was driving through a stop sign and a cop pulled me over and he goes, you went through the stop sign. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't go over that far. He goes, why are you wearing that hat? I said, I played the deputy in Jaws. He goes, oh, I love that movie. Don't do it again. So I wear it now, like for the rest of my life, like it's going to save me.
It probably will. It's a good, kind of totem to have to protect you. It's great.
Oh my God. and Steven was still Steven then. I mean, Spielberg and I mean, please, we thought they'd never release this movie. We thought they were going to pull the plug.
But did you have any sense that he was going to be huge? Did you have a sense of his talent then?
Well, I really liked him. He didn't direct you from an emotional point of view. He just knew visually what he wanted, and you do it a few times, and he really cast very much according to type, I think. All the local people were fabulous.
There's a scene, your first big scene in the movie when they go to find Chrissy's remains on the beach.
Yeah.
If you look at it now, after seeing The Fabelmans, which I don't know if you watched The Fabelmans.
Yeah, I did. Sure.
That amazing scene at the end of Fabelmans with our late great David Lynch playing John Ford, saying if the horizon's at the top, it's interesting. If the horizon's at the bottom, it's interesting. If the horizon's in the middle, it's boring as shit. Right? That's his line. Yeah. If you watch your scene in Jaws, it's a minute long, and for the most part, it's not perfect, but for the most part, all of the horizon shots are midway, as if to say, Amity is boring. It's like, this is total status quo. There's nothing interesting happening. But then you guys find Chrissy's remains, and the next shot is of Brody, of Roy Scheider, and the horizon line is suddenly up over his head. So basically the ocean is almost like over his head, as if to say, things just got interesting.
Yeah.
And the water is basically
going to take it that way. I get it. But listen, I'm a fan, and I just wanted to see you and surprise you and say hi.
I love it.
All right.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Bye.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
You bet.
See you again, Subad. See you, mate. Bye-bye. Hey guys, it's Ross. I hope you're enjoying this week's episode. Bruce and I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about a couple of the organisations that we've been working with, and also some of the new products you can find in our store. Minorities in Shark Sciences, or MISS for short. A non-profit founded in 2020 that champions diversity in shark, ray and marine sciences. MISS creates equitable opportunities for historically underrepresented communities through hands-on programs and believes that diverse scientists bring diverse ideas, driving the innovation essential for ocean conservation. Representation matters, and MISS is making sure the next generation sees a place for themselves in marine biology. Learn more and support their mission at missalesmo.org. The mission of the Tourette Association of America is to provide help and hope to those affected by Tourette syndrome, tic disorders, and associated conditions through awareness, research, and support. It's the only national organisation serving the community and works to raise awareness, advance research, and provide ongoing support to patients and families impacted by Tourette syndrome and tic disorders. To this end, the Tourette Association of America directs a network of 31 chapters, 83 support groups, and recognises 18 centres of excellence across the country. It's a non-profit organisation and is extremely close to the heart of not just Jeffrey Kramer, but also his family. The Daily Jaws store is home to some of the world's most exciting Jaws products, including screen-accurate barrels and tanks, a chalkboard shark shadow caster, a yellow barrel koozie, an orca transom and 3 yellow barrel keychains, and much more. Visit store.thedailyjaws.com. For non-US orders, please email orders@thedailyjaws.com. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
That was incredible. Thank you for that.
Oh, no, you're absolutely welcome. What I'm trying to do is we're trying to get Jeffrey involved in as many conversations as we can, just so it's a chance for people to speak to someone who was there when it was made. So thank you for Jeffrey Kramer for being able to make it again. That was wonderful. Okay, so let's come back to your relationship with the movie. So in terms of the craft of Jaws, because obviously for me it's 2 hours and 4 minutes of cinematic perfection in every aspect. I mean, is there a particular aspect of Jaws that you think stands out from a craft perspective that you think is what sort of pushes it above sort of many of the movies that are still being made today?
Wow. I mean, we talked about Verna Fields earlier. The editing is just sensational, and
Yeah.
by most accounts, effectively saved that movie.
Hmm.
Because I'm not saying it wouldn't have been a good movie without her, but I'm just saying she
Yeah.
really brought it to the next level.
Hmm.
And then, of course, John Williams took it to even a higher level than that, by just creating, creating a character through music and having us in the water through music and just like it
Hmm.
all happening like as if we were there, because of our emotional reaction to the score.
Yeah.
And by the way, really quick, his score for Jaws 2 almost as good. I mean, it's brilliant. His Jaws 2 score is incredible.
Yeah.
Um, so those two are like the ones, the kind of the post-production side of it stands out to me because I just imagine, not having been there, I imagine that the shoot was a bit of a shit show, because obviously they went way over schedule, way over
Hmm.
budget. They didn't,
Yeah.
like Spielberg thought he was gonna get fired. I mean, there's like a lot of that kind of tension. And I'm sure he got out of there with just enough footage to think, okay, I'm going to get back and I'm going to try to figure this out. And they did. That's the thing is like they figured it out in such a beautiful
Mm.
way. So I'm going to give a slight nod, I think, to the post-production component of this movie because I think that is really what brought it all together.
Mm.
But the cast, man, the cast is absolutely top notch, and
Hmm.
all of them at the top of their game. I mean, each one brings a completely different flavor and energy to the
Yeah.
movie, and the alchemy of especially the top three is just so delightful and
Mm.
engaging and iconic. It's just that those three characters together, to me, I mean, I still have not seen the play that
Oh, the
I'm
shark
dying
is
to see.
broken. Oh, it's
The Shark is
brilliant.
Broken. I
Amazing.
almost hopped over to London to see it when I was in Europe, but I thought
Mhm.
it was kind of an extravagant side trip to make, and I wish I had done it now. But hopefully it'll come my way one day soon.
Fingers crossed.
Having said that, it's like those three guys together is just it's just movie magic. I mean, and the fact that you've read about potential tension between them or whatever, but it's like I feel like whatever energy they had in the real world that they
Mm.
brought to set and then imbued into those characters,
Mm.
again, elevated that film so much higher than it ever would have been with any other cast, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When you hear about some of the other actors that were considered, it's like, no, no, we got the perfect cast, we got the perfect cut, we got the perfect
Hmm.
everything with this film. And I just feel like when you look at the totality of Jaws, it is just overwhelming
Yeah.
how much of it is absolute perfection, even though it's a very imperfect film. It's filled with imperfections, and even the imperfections are perfect. It's
Mm.
like those imperfections had to be there. It's like you have a steak, you have to have some fat, you gotta have some gristle, you gotta get some flavor in there. It's like you gotta have some imperfections in the steak. And to
Yeah.
me, Jaws is a great example of that.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point. I mean, the thing is, as I said, there were so many things that went right for that movie, in spite of so many things going wrong. And when it comes to any sort of classic movie, it's normally the characters that draw you back because you care about them, you empathize with them, you worry about them. You know, as I said at the end of the movie, is the shark going to get the better of Brody and all that sort of stuff. Um, in terms of the shark is broken, I think absolutely see that because the two sources or the two primary sources for the writing of that play were the Jaws log and Robert Shaw's own diaries. And the shark is broken, for those that don't know, it's a play about the making of Jaws set on the Orca, and it's got three actors playing Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. But what's great about it is it's the sort of main run, although there are some licensed versions of the show. The main run is actually being co-written by Ian Shaw, who is the son of Robert Shaw, and he's also playing his dad. So it's about as meta as you can get in the Jaws universe, but it really does add a very personal depth to the overall story, but it also gives us some insights into those tensions that you talked about and how they were used during the making of the movie. You know, that conflict between Hooper and Quint, for example, beautifully played, and in all the right ways. And you can imagine them sort of being that way, sort of off camera. So yeah, highly recommended for people just trying to understand a bit more about the making of Jaws. In terms of the three characters, do you have a favorite?
I mean, honestly, as incredible as Robert Shaw was as Quint, and as lovable as Richard Dreyfuss was as Hooper, I feel
Mm,
like Brody's the one for me. I
mm,
feel like he is my like audience surrogate. He's my avatar in the film. It's like
mm,
I feel like to be perfectly honest, I feel like there's every character in the film. I feel like I have a piece of. You know, I feel like I can relate to each character, even Vaughn, frankly, a couple times. Like he's just trying to protect the town. He's doing it
mm.
in a terrible way, and people are
Yeah.
getting killed about it. But I appreciate what he's trying to do, even though he's terrible at it and kind of
Mm,
incompetent. But Ellen, Hendricks, Brody, Hooper, Quint, all of them. It's like I feel like I've got a little piece of them in my heart, and I
mm,
totally understand where they're coming from, which is another sign of a great film. Is like when
mm.
you can really understand the motivations for these characters. Out of all that, it's Brody for me because we begin with him, we end with him.
Yeah.
He has the biggest arc, which we talked about earlier,
Mm,
and Roy Scheider's performance is just so like it's tremendous how like the spectrum of emotion he has to cover as Brody.
mm,
You know, it's like there's some really great laugh out loud moments. There's some tragic, really sad moments, like with
mm.
Kintner's mom. It's like I just feel like there's just and my favorite scene in the film is like not actually one of the shark scenes. It's when Martin and Sean are at the dinner table and you know Sean is mimicking Dad, you know,
Mhm.
and doing that. And it's like that is such a emotionally powerful anchor, again, no pun
Yeah.
intended, to the film that I feel like that's why I care about these characters because the
Mm,
time was taken to have a moment like that where you have a character at his low point at that point in the
mm,
film, and his little boy is trying to like cheer him up
yeah.
and being a good son to a good dad, and I think that is the heart of Jaws. It's not the shark
Mm,
hunt, like which is thrilling.
mm,
It's the human family core of it.
yeah. That's actually my favorite moment in the movie as well.
That's great.
I absolutely adore it, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this. You probably are because you're Mr. Movie. You know everything about everything. But basically, what it is that apparently happened by accident. That scene. So what happened was Roy Scheider was sat at the table and he was just going through his lines and whatever it was, and he saw the actor Jay Mello copying him. So then apparently he went to Spielberg and said, "Look, we could do something with this." So they played around with it and came up with this wonderful concept of him just copying Roy Scheider, and it was brilliant because it's like you say, it's a totally believable, organic human moment that we've all had. We've all tried to copy our parents in some way, shape, or form, whether to learn or for play or whatever it is. And in that moment, it's bordering on heartbreaking, where he just says, "Give us a kiss," and he says, "Why?" Because I need it. And we've all been there. I mean, I don't have kids of my own, but I've got godchildren. We've all been there when, you know what, all I need is just a hug from my godchildren or a hug from my kids, just to, give me that boost. Let me know that, it's not the end of the world, whatever it is that I'm going through. And there are bigger things more important than me, or however you want to interpret that moment. And I know a few people that pick that as their favorite moment. Obviously, the Indianapolis speech is the showstopper. I mean, it's an incredible monologue, but just that delicate, beautiful little moment is just, for me, that like you say, it's the heart of Jaws, but also I think the heart of sort of the beginning of Spielberg's signature when it comes to the themes of family and home.
I have a 2-year-old now,
Mm,
and I'm kind of imagining him, like, I mean, we've had our own versions of that scene,
Yeah.
where he can intuit that, I'm a little down or my energy's off or whatever, and somehow he finds a way to make me smile. He finds some
Yeah.
way to lift me up again, I think the core sort of like element of family in Spielberg's movies,
Mm.
uh, certainly, I think it began actually with Sugarland Express, but I do feel like Jaws identified it as a signature of his that
Mm.
then continued on, especially in Close Encounters for sure,
Yeah.
especially in E.T. Like, and it's what's interesting. It's not just everything is great, everything is good, everything's happy, and rainbows and everything. It's just like there is darkness and there is bittersweetness, and that is
Mm.
embraced so honestly. And often by kids who are, it's very easy for them to be honest, as especially as actors. I think that has been a secret weapon in his films that
Mm.
in like the first half of his career for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, do you think Jaws is Steven Spielberg's best film, or do you think something has now surpassed this cinematic perfection?
Well, it's my favorite film of his,
Mm.
which is not the same as saying it's his best. Wow, man, that's tough. It's like I think Schindler's List is way up there on the best list. I think Close Encounters is actually way up on the best list. Um, the best list for me of his is slightly different than the favorite list. Like my
Mm.
favorites are Jaws and Raiders,
Mm.
and a couple I won't mention because people think I'm insane. But then I look at like Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan and Munich, and
Mm.
and just those are films that are very, very important, but
Yeah.
not just because of their subject matter, but because of, like, again, the heart that goes into it.
Mm.
I feel like that is a different corner of our heart, that the first half of his career kind of was more fun and playful and escapist. And then as he kind of got more mature as a filmmaker, the films followed,
Mm.
but the purity of the emotion is still the same. And
Yeah.
so I think you just look at those later films, and I mean, the term important or best is a weird term for me because everything is subjective, but
Yeah.
that's my weird answer to you. What's yours? Where do you think is it his best or his favorite or your favorite?
Well, I've got a sort of a best and a favorite list for movies and sports people, so I completely understand what you're talking about. So, for example, my favorite tennis player of all time is Roger Federer. I just think I've never seen anything so beautiful on a tennis court before. But the greatest player or the best player has got to be Djokovic in terms of what he's won and the way that he's gone about it. When it comes to Spielberg, I'm really conflicted because I've dedicated quite a lot of my time to studying Jaws and trying to understand the movie and make new discoveries and all that. It's just firmly in my mind, unlike any other film, but regardless of whether it's Spielberg or not. And the more I understand around the challenges of just making this movie, I'm just think it's incredible to think that this movie is even available to watch, that it actually got finished. So it's a real blessing that it actually did get done. I think in terms of the challenges he faced, the overall consistency of craft, there's wonderful things we've talked about, and just the personal experience it gives me, I still think Jaws is his best and my favorite film of his. Because he was only 26 when he made it. He still had a huge amount to learn, and he just had so much skill and talent on show from such an early age. But you look at his early stuff, like you said, Munich is one of my favorite films, full stop. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just an incredible piece of filmmaking, but it's one of those, and it's ridiculous to say, but almost forgotten Spielberg movies. I don't really
Yeah.
hear many people talking about it. And it's not a movie full of great action pieces. It's not set in space. It's not about aliens or anything like that. It's just people trying to, I don't know, right or wrong, take revenge, however you want to view that particular story. And it's basically dialogue. And there aren't many people that can pull off a 2 hour, 40-minute movie of basically dialogue and make it compelling and make you care and make you think about, the wider issues compounding that particular set of events. It's we're just really lucky to have him and filmmakers like that are out there able to lend their voice to slightly more mature stories as they go. Because he was king of the box office and king of the blockbusters, but now he's king of the cinema. He's king of the art form. He really is. And I always look forward to what he's going to do next. And I can't say that about every filmmaker, sadly. But we can't all be Steven Spielberg.
No, that's true.
Um,
Otherwise, we'd all be doing it. We'd all be making masterpiece after masterpiece, you know?
um, Now, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you specifically about, and I'm really curious for your answer, because obviously, as we said at the top of the show, You've worked on the restoration of movies, so Alien 3, the assembly cut you led, and you're a producer on Blade Runner, the final cut. Um, there's quite a lot of deleted scenes and extended footage and different versions of different scenes and things like that from Jaws. So, for example, there's a much bloodier version of the estuary scene, where the estuary victim is sort of taken in the shark's mouth, and then he actually reaches out for Michael Brody before disappearing beneath the surface. There's also some character stuff as well there. We see more of the Brody household. And also there's a fantastic scene with Robert Shaw as Quint in the music shop teasing a kid playing the clarinet. Um, but also Jaws on its own is a masterpiece of editing. It's the perfect length. There's not a lot of fat on that steak, to be fair. But do you think there is such a thing as a Jaws director's cut in there somewhere? And what do you think that might look like?
Yes, there's definitely a Jaws director's cut, and it came out June 20th, 1975. That is the director's cut of Jaws. That is the perfect film. And I've looked at those deleted scenes. In fact, for our conversation, I rewatched them, and there isn't a single one of those deleted scenes I think should go back in the film, like in any form, not even a piece of them. It's like they're wonderful to see on their own. I'm so happy that we were gifted the opportunity to see these deleted scenes. And like you say, like Robert Shaw, Quint in the music shop with the the poor kid in the clarinet, which again, lovely split diopter shot there at the end of it. But I think that's just like so unnecessary for Quint, because keeping Quint mysterious really is part of his appeal and his charm and his charisma. It's like, to have seen anything of Quint, like what that scene in the music shop, where does that take place in relation to the town hall meeting and the chalkboard? Is that before or after? I don't remember
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it might have been afterwards. I think I'd
So
have
it's
to
not,
double
so
check. That's a good question.
if it's after, it's unnecessary. If it's before, it ruins one of the greatest intros ever to a character with a chalkboard scratch. So it's like, it's unnecessary. It's like skipping over to a different franchise. It's like the added Jabba scene in Star Wars Special Edition. It's like, we didn't need that terrible CG scene, because it's like, it ruins Jabba as a character. It ruins the reveal of the Millennium Falcon. It ruins so much, and it just repeats information we already got in the previous scene with Greedo at the cantina. So I think to have put in that bit with Quint, or even some of the other additional moments, it'd be repetitive. It would be not particularly informative. It would add things that are just not necessary. It would just junk up the edit with stuff that is on its own as an artifact. Wonderful, delightful to see this stuff, right? And to see what could have been. But I would be so mad if they try to put any of that back in the movie, because the movie is really, truly editing perfection. And what's interesting about Jaws is, and maybe it's a lot of Spielberg movies, but he really is walking a tightrope between light and dark, humor and horror. I mean, there's just this perfect line that he's on. And if you put too much of one side or the other, it'll ruin everything. And I feel like in some of the deleted scenes, a lot of the deleted scenes I've seen from Spielberg movies, there's a lot of humor in them. And it's almost like it's too much humor. It's like, I'm sure he had a blast on set. He's having fun. This is great. And you get back to the edit room, and Verna Fields, or later Michael Kahn or whoever, it's like, yeah, it's just too much. It's like, we don't need it, and it makes it like, there's like those deleted scenes of all like the the flotilla or the armada or whatever, the boats going out, of all the fishermen going out to get the shark off the bounty. And it would have been ridiculous to spend that much time and all these like just imbeciles in their boats throwing dynamite or whatever. It's like, don't need it. It's like, there's just enough of it in the movie to get the sense of chaos that's happening out there. But to explore all these comedy bits that I'm sure on the day were hilarious and probably felt like, oh yeah, that's going to go in the movie. Don't need it. I think I don't know if Robert Zemeckis coined the phrase, but when I went to USC Film School, the phrase that came up a lot was, when in doubt, cut it out. And I feel like that is true for every movie. When in doubt, cut it out.
Wow. That's a great saying, because like you say, Jaws tonally, it's a lot of things, but it's not a romp. It's not, that kind of movie. It's got a very specific way of of saying what it's trying to say. I think, the scene, for example, where Quint is in the music shop, no matter kind of where you put that, before or after the town hall scene, it would take away from the character, because you're positioning him as some kind of comedian, which isn't the type of character he is at all. And the first thing that I remember watching when I watched Jaws for the first time is I wanted to watch it again but watch Quint more closely, because now I understand why he behaves the way he does. He doesn't trust anybody because he's been let down before, and he's seen lots of his friends getting let down directly or indirectly by his government, or all that kind of stuff. He just has major trust issues, PTSD as well, survivor's guilt, all of these things going on, but you don't understand it until the final few moments of Jaws, and it's just like, wow. And then as you get a bit older, you watch it again, and you maybe study the mayor a little bit more closely, and you think, is this guy doing the right thing, or is he doing the wrong thing, or is he just someone caught in an impossible position? And how many of our politicians are really in that situation in real life? I mean, Jaws, when COVID came out, it became very relevant. It was very lockdown was being compared to beaches open, beaches closed. It's like, what do we do? And then we've got, in our country anyway, at the time, it was Boris Johnson who was in charge, who actually thinks Mayor Vaughan is one of the greatest politicians that's ever lived. We've got a quote for that. We can prove that. Let's read into that what you will. But it's kind of like there are so many different lessons and lenses that you can watch Jaws through the eyes of the characters, and you get a very different take on the same situation, which again, I think is why it's just an amazing piece of craft. Now, I've got some controversial questions for you. These are the questions we posted on social. Yeah, oh yeah. So these are questions that we posted on social media. The first one, I love this question. From Jaws, the original movie, who would you save? Chrissy, Pippet, Alex, Ben Gardner, the estuary victim, or Quint? And you can only save one.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, look, my heart immediately leapt when he said pivot. I was like, that, like, by the way, side note really quick, at Martha's Vineyard, his grave is there. And I was going to see if there's a way to arrange to go visit his grave and pay my respects to Pippet. Because I mean, that would, put a little stick on his little gravesite.
Let me see if we can help you out with that, because I think that's a wonderful gesture.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So that's the gooey heart jumped out at that. But Quint lived a full life. He died doing what he loved doing, was hunting sharks. So he's fine. Let him go off into Valhalla for shark hunters. Alex Kinder, tragic, sad. He shouldn't have gone out again. He should have listened to his mom. He should have stayed. He shouldn't have gone out that one last time.
Absolutely.
So tragic, but it happened. Estuary victim. He was trying to help out. He was trying to do a good thing. He was trying to help those kids. So he shouldn't have died. And Chrissy was just having fun, and that's like kind of the most horrific one in a way, because I mean, just she kind of went out there as a sort of like innocent babe in the woods, so to speak, and then was just completely mauled like that. So I got to give it to the estuary victim. I got to say, because he was actually trying to do some good, and he knew. I mean, he was aware of what was happening. Obviously, like the whole town knew that there might be a shark problem. He was trying to help some kids, and I give it to him. Yeah.
Right. You're the first person to say that answer, and I love the reason. This is brilliant. This is why I love these questions, because you always get a slightly different answer. Okay, next question. Did Pippet actually live?
Okay, so I've heard that theory, and I know Mr. Spielberg has chimed on that as well. And I like to think that he did. My wife, she supports me in my Jaws addiction, and we talk about Pippet because she's a huge animal lover, and we have a little dog here at the house, and every time Jaws comes up, I just look at our little Yorkie poo, and I think, oh, what if Bella was out on the ocean? She'd be a nice little snack for Bruce. But I'm going to say, look, the grown-up in me says no, Pippet did not make it because the stick was floating in the water, and Pippet would have come when he was called because he was loyal, good boy. But let's just imagine he didn't cross the Rainbow Bridge into Bruce's mouth, and he's roaming the island somewhere with some new owners or some new friends that are taking care of him.
Love it. Well, there's a video that I made a few years ago about Pippet, and we made a discovery while in the making of that. So during the estuary attack, there's a shot with Roy Scheider running down the bridge towards the camera, and then he hops over. On the bridge in the background is a black Labrador dog.
Oh boy.
So it's possible that Pippet made it out. This is to be confirmed. Okay, next question.
I'm gonna cling to that. I'm gonna go watch that scene after we're done. I'm gonna go really scrutinize it. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. We could be the right dog, but we don't know. Did they need a bigger boat?
Well, they needed Hooper's boat is what they needed. But they could have just lasered the shark with his boat. No, I mean, sure, yeah, they could have used a bigger boat. Sure, they could have used better equipment, full crew. Whatever. Yeah, sure, they could have, but then the movie wouldn't have been nearly as good as it is.
Absolutely right. And you touched on this before. You're very good at preempting my questions, by the way. I think you can
Sorry.
see this list. No, no, it's all good. Why didn't they take Hooper's boat?
Well, that's a great question because Hooper originally was supposed to leave, right? So he was planning to leave town.
Hmm.
So they made plans with Quint, and they made the contract with Quint, and Hooper I probably saw that maybe Quint was not the most reliable captain to go out with. So maybe he thought, well, I'll stick around here and I'll study the shark. I'll
Mm.
say that I'm studying the shark just to make it seem like legit, but
Yeah,
I'll be there to help out because they're going to need my help. They're going to need my talents and my scientific point of view that Quint does not care about at all.
yeah.
So I think that he did it as a sacrificial move, and at least career-wise. But that the plan was he was originally going to leave the island. So that's kind of why and Quint's not going to take that fancy, the counting money hands that the city boy has. He's not going to take that boat out. He'd probably make fun of it if he saw it. So yeah.
All right. Brilliant answer. I like the fact you've thought about these. I love it. Well, that's the end of the controversial questions, but just a
No,
few
no, give me
more
more. Give me more. I
to
want I
it.
want more. Give me some more.
You
Give me
want
some more.
more?
I want more.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I've kind of run out. Okay, if I think of any
Okay.
more, I'm just looking at my collection for
All right.
inspiration. Oh, this is a semi controversial question, but we've asked this of a few people, and I love the answers we got on this. What are your thoughts on the sequels? Because obviously you've got Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, Jaws the Revenge. Where do you kind of stand on those?
So I think Jaws 2 is a perfectly adequate sequel. You know, it's not incredibly original. It's not nearly as, mind-blowing as the original, but it's I think
Mm,
it's well made. Again, the score is phenomenal. The Jaws 2 score
mm,
is absolutely incredible. Um, Ray Scheider, even though he did it kind of against his will, he shows up for work. He does it. He's got some really great scenes. Brody's kind of like perceived meltdown and obsession with the shark, I think is pretty well handled. And,
mm.
there might be a deleted scene from Jaws 2, if I recall, that actually makes Vaughn far more sympathetic of a character because he is kind of taking Brody's side in this.
Yeah.
So there's good elements to Jaws. On the whole, it's fine. It's like I
Mm,
don't love it, but it's perfectly fine. Uh, Jaws 3, my dear friend Jared Rivet in LA, that's like his favorite movie of all time, it seems like. I'm not going to say it is, but because he'll kill me. But he loves the hell out of Jaws 3D. He really does. And so I know there are people out there who love it. It's not for me.
mm.
Seeing a shark in front of a blue screen, like a model shark in front of a blue screen coming towards, the underwater, whatever, the headquarters.
Yeah.
It's just not, there's nothing visceral, there's nothing threatening, there's nothing, it just feels so, just I think the problem was the gimmicky aspect of the 3D sabotaged that film. That the
Mm.
technology wasn't quite there yet, and that they had to sell it's coming for you, it's coming for you.
Yeah.
That really kind of ruined the film. And I feel bad because Joe Alves directed that, right? Like
Yeah.
that was his directorial debut, I believe.
That's right. Yeah.
Um, and and hey, if you can get a movie made, especially the third in a major franchise, that's amazing. So I feel bad that he got stuck with the gimmick of the 3D to kind of like
Mm,
hobble the film a little.
mm.
Um, and I'll get to the Revenge in a second. Ironically, the 3D conversion for Jaws was phenomenal. I don't know if you saw it, but
Yeah, I was talking about this on another interview. I did the double because here in the UK it was showing on IMAX
yep,
and in
same here.
3D.
Yep.
Unbelievable, incredible.
That's probably the best post conversion I've ever seen
Mm,
especially for an old film where it looked like it was filmed for 3D. There were some scenes
yeah.
in there. Spielberg's framing was like, well, I know a lot of directors, they think 3D anyway, but
Mm,
back in 1975, I seriously doubt they were thinking, oh, we'll release this in 3D someday. But there are
mm,
certain shots in Jaws that the 3D was just so immersive, like it actually
mm.
like kind of lured you in versus pushing you back, which a lot of
Yeah,
gimmicky 3D does.
yeah,
So yeah, huge props for the 3D conversion team on Jaws. Jaws
massive.
Revenge, I went to a test screening of actually on the Universal lot, and it had the different ending. And I remember the audience like not enjoying that film. I remember there were a lot of laughs, like unintentional laughs,
Yeah.
like when Michael Caine, falls in the water and he gets out and he's bone dry in the next shot. People laughed, just things like that. Just really hurt that film. And by the way, I think Joseph Sargent was a fantastic director. He directed one of my all-time favorite films, The Taking of Pelham 123. Phenomenal crime
which,
thriller.
which starred Robert Shaw.
Exactly. He played
Yeah.
Mr. Blue on that, I believe. So,
Hmm.
yeah. So again, the director, I don't fault the directors. It's just kind of they got saddled with a franchise installment that they had to
Hmm.
tick the boxes for the studio and didn't really get to tell like maybe a passionate filmmaker's story.
Hmm.
They were handed a product that they had to then
Yeah.
create for a release date.
Hmm.
So yeah, Jaws of Revenge. I mean, it's just laughably comical that the shark would follow the family down to the Caribbean or wherever the hell was it. Where'd they go? They went to
It was the
Jamaica. Is that where they went?
Bahamas.
Or the Bahamas, yeah.
Bahamas.
So
Mm.
that shot, if I recall, it's been a long time, but I believe there's a shot like right behind the fin where it kind of almost turns and like goes in a different direction or something like. It's like,
It's oh,
yeah, it's not a good film. But again, I feel sorry because making any film, good, bad, or other, is difficult. It's really, really hard to make a movie of any kind. So, I'm not gonna fault them too much. But if we're comparing Jaws movies, it's pretty
mm,
much in theatrical order down the list.
yeah. I think the other thing as well, you hit on something there that's really difficult to do. Jaws, there's two problems with trying to make a sequel to Jaws. One, the first one is just, as we know, it's epically cinematic perfection, but it's also a full circle story. It doesn't need to go any further than what it does. Hooper and Brody make it back. Quint doesn't. And we can kind of imagine what happened next in terms of that immediate fallout or whatever it is. And for me, that's where that needed to end. But obviously, when you've got something that makes so much money, obviously sequels are going to come and you're going to get more shark and more elaborate setups and gimmicks and everything else. The other thing that I think is difficult is that Jaws itself is actually a very unrefreshable idea or an unsequelable idea. Unsequelable? I think that's a word. We've just made one up.
I like it. I'm
Um,
going to use that
uh,
word.
it's pretty unsequelable because effectively it's about a fish affecting a town, and that's already been done perfectly. So how do you bring that story back? I mean, for me, Jaws Revenge for me is a guilty pleasure. I was very lucky. I got to interview Lance Guest and Mitchell Anderson about the film, and they held their hands up and go, it is what it is. But like you said, they worked with Joseph Sargent, who was a great director. He really was. And incidentally, that movie, like you said, in terms of the studio, basically just need another product to sell. They already had a release date, and apparently the initial conversation between the studio and Joseph Sargent was basically Sid Sheinberg said to Joseph Sargent, "We need to find a new way to kill the shark. If you can figure that out, you can make your movie any way you like." So Joe Sargent just pitched a few different ways to kill the shark. Sid Sheinberg went, "Yeah, cool, we'll go with that," even though you've got like two different endings anyway. And then he basically wrote a script, and he was just like, "Well, I haven't been to the Caribbean recently. Let's make a movie there." So that's what they did, and then they sent that original draft to Michael Caine. And Michael Caine, I think originally it was set in Hawaii, and the script sort of said the initial page was the sun is rising over the Hawaiian horizon or whatever it is, and all this kind of stuff. And Michael Caine's like, "Well, Sean Connery and Roger Moore live near there. I'll go hang out with them while I'm making this movie." So that's initially what got him excited about it. But my favorite fact about Jaws: The Revenge was when the shark is sort of basically balancing on its tail out of the water before it's about to get killed. Again, spoilers, guys. The shark dies at the end of Jaws: The Revenge. It roars. Now that roar was a joke put in by the editor, and they left it in. They left it in, and that roar was from Godzilla back in the
Oh man,
1950s.
wow,
Yeah, it's just like, oh
wow.
wow. So that's how little or how quickly they had to push it through post production just to get it out, or they just had a real sense of humor, realized what they had, and it's just like, yeah, sharks roar, fine, whatever. I'm still trying to figure out how
Well,
the shark got
it's
out of the shipwreck.
well, yeah, of course, there's that too. But the roar, which again is laughably bad, but you have to wonder just a gut feeling for a studio executive watching, the film before it goes out to audiences. And if they didn't have the roar and the shark was just kind of like, kind of doing this big, leap and
Mm.
there's nothing except for music, it might feel a little empty, like there's something that needs to be there. And if you look at the original Jaws, there are moments of subtle sound design to kind of almost create the impression of not a roar exactly, but some kind of like shark presence
Yeah,
that's from the shark itself.
yeah.
And maybe try that out rather than just a Godzilla roar. I really quickly, I read a fan idea online about a way to do a Jaws sequel that is
Uh,
not going back to the shark. And
Okay.
you probably saw this, but I thought it was actually
Go
very
ahead.
clever. I mean, it would never get made, but
Hmm.
basically, and Brody is still alive, and Brody is basically doing the Jaws 2 shtick of like, there's another shark, there's a victim, there's remains, there's this, there's that. The townsfolk and Vaughn and everyone's like, you're crazy, Martin. You're whatever. All that happens, and then it turns out after some careful investigation that there was no shark. It's a serial killer faking shark attack deaths. Like the serial killer's like MO is to basically butcher people, but to make it like fake shark wounds. So the shark will get blamed. He can kill people. I thought, okay, that's a clever, like, that's almost like a
Yeah.
Black Mirror episode or like some kind of like, that's like an anthology
Yeah.
episode of a series. But I thought, okay,
That's
I
very
don't want to see a
clever.
whole movie of that, but that's kind of a fun twist on, like it's like Die Hard 2. How can the same thing happen to the same guy twice? Is in the trailer, and that line was so funny, they put it in the movie itself because it's so absurd that that would happen a second time. There are a lot of
Yeah.
sequels like that. Like there's no reason to create a sequel. That gets around the shark loophole, I think, of like having a killer pretending to be a shark.
That's clever. I like that idea. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the interview, and this has been a real treat and fascinating because you've got some really interesting ideas around the themes and Jaws and stuff. But for me, this is obviously the 50th anniversary. So we're talking legacy now. What do you think is the legacy of Jaws?
Wow. Well, look, again, going back to the comfort food analogy that you mentioned, it's like it's comfort food, but it's delicious food. It's so, so good, you know?
Mm,
And the fact that you can, like, Jaws can be on any TV channel or whatever, you just happen to catch a glimpse of it and you automatically just want to sit
mm,
and reunite with your old friend Jaws, right? Like that's my feeling to this day. It's
yeah.
like that it's comfort, but it's not cheap. It's not fast food. It's not garbage. It is
Mm,
high quality. It's a high quality relationship,
yeah.
and I feel like that is my feeling on the legacy of Jaws beyond being a fantastic movie, beyond being kind of like the first modern blockbuster, beyond being the starting point for a master director, the likes of which we'll probably never see again. I mean, there's just
Mm,
so many origin stories in Jaws that then beautifully blossomed out into the world and through, over the next 50 years.
mm,
That's the legacy of it, but it all comes down to it's a damn good movie. It's a
yeah.
damn good movie, and it's so well made and it has just all the right ingredients,
Yeah.
and you just come away thinking like you feel good even though you went through hell with those characters, you feel really good, you know?
Mm,
And when you see that in the beautiful final end credit shot, and in the distance you see, Matt and Martin showing up on the beach, it's like all
mm.
is well in the world. It's almost like Jaws fixes the world.
Yeah.
It's
On,
like,
honest,
just
Honestly, that's it for me. It is like that movie that grows with you, and like you say, you can spot new things in there. You can enjoy it for different reasons, and that final shot on the beach is very. I don't know if it was deliberate, but semi-mirrored in my other favorite movie, which is The Shawshank Redemption, where you
mm,
just get that pull-away shot, and you see them on a beach walking towards each other, Red and Andy, and they just embrace, and you just get that again, that feeling of it's okay. We're back to normal again, or a better normal because we've learned something through these experiences. Absolutely amazing. And for me,
absolutely.
that's the real strength of Jaws and those classic movies like that. They help us get through whatever it is that we're getting through. And you just I had a bad day. Let's give an old friend a call or put on Jaws.
Or even
Um,
even on a good day.
or even on a
Any
good
day is good
day.
for Jaws. Yeah,
Any
any day
day.
is
You
good for Jaws.
you,
Yeah.
you can never have too much Jaws in your life.
Yeah.
Um, Charlie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you talk to us today. Thank you so much again
Thank
for,
you,
for
Ross.
making some time. Well, guys, I've been Ross speaking with Charles de Lauzirika for the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Until next time, I'll drink to your legs and I'll bid you a fond farewell and adieu. That's it for today's deep dive into Jaws, the film that turned beaches into no-swim zones and created the summer blockbuster. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to follow, rate and review. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, just when you thought it was safe to stop listening, there's plenty more episodes to come. Please be sure to check out the work of Minorities in Shark Sciences and also the Tourette's Association of America. That's it for now, guys, but I'll catch you next time. I'll drink to your legs.